I want to talk about the first thing that we need to do when ordering our Pintec USA drum, acoustic drum to MIDI drum conversion. The first thing we want to cover, obviously, is the size of the shell. So this is a 12-inch shell. We're going to send all of the sizes of all the drums that we'll be converting to Pintec. Also, we want to take a measurement from this vent hole to the nearest lug where we're going to mount our bridge. Now this is the lug that we've decided on to mount the bridge, and I've marked it here with a Sharpie. You don't have to mark it with a Sharpie, you can mark it with a pencil or whatever. I needed it to stay here for video purposes and for it to be bright for video purposes. So I marked it with a Sharpie. And so we take a measurement from here to here, and what we have is 4 inches. Okay, or 3 inches straight across. I sent the 4-inch number. Now keep in mind, Pintec will give you an extra inch as well, so you're even, you're not going to be tight here. They will kind of over exaggerate just a little bit, so you've got some work, you've got some room to play with on the measurement. And when it comes to cable management, that's something that's very, very important. So you can route your cables properly within the drum, and we will also talk about taping all of that down to keep it nice and neat, and as well as keeping connection points from being crimped. Okay, parts. Okay, I want to talk about parts. What gets shipped with our MIDI conversion is a few things. We have 2 of the foam trigger pads, and you'll notice that one side is dark and one side is a light gray with the blue dots on both. Okay, the blue dots are sticky, and that's what this side is going to, the gray side is up. So this gray side is what you want touching your drum head, and this is what's going to actually be mounted on top of the piezo. Okay, to remove the blue backing on the sticky, I recommend using a razor blade. Your fingernails just aren't going to be enough to flick that, so you just grab a razor blade and be very careful, obviously, with the razor blade. To just kind of flick it up a little bit and pull that off. It'll save you a bunch of frustration. Next, I want to talk about the 1/4-inch female connector. Now in this case we have this is a stereo. We're doing a dual trigger zone, so this is a stereo connection, and then we have the head and the rim connections, which both are marked, and this will actually insert into our vent hole when all said and done. Pintec also does a pigtail version where it mounts in the vent hole, and then you have lines coming out, a 2-channel line as well. Now, you'll notice that we have 4 triggers, 2 head triggers and 2 rim triggers. Now, Pintec sends all 4 triggers, basically giving us a spare trigger for each of the rim as well as the head. If something goes wrong in the install process, we have another trigger for both rim and head. If one is damaged later on down the road, we also already have one. They give us a spare. So that's very nice. Next, what we have is the bridge. Now I've taken this bridge apart for the video, but this bridge comes screwed together like this. It'll actually have a piece of tape on the bridge, noting which drum it goes to, with a bunch of electrical tape along with that small sticky note on top of that. So the electrical tape I've set aside, and that's what we'll be using to do our cable management. And then of course this one's for the 12-inch tom, so this is how I know that this goes for this drum. Okay, you'll also notice the blue dots. The blue dots are the sticky, and Pintec sends extra of those as well if you want to line more. Why the tape is on the bridge is when you stick these two together, it provides a piece of rubber, sticky rubber, between the two pieces of metal, which cut down on all the vibrations. Now there's more tape, there's more dots that you can apply to even secure it even more. In this case, we're not going to need to, because they are spread out far enough apart to where there's not enough touching for it to concern us. But that's completely up to you as the end user if you want to add more tape or not. There's already going to be tape on them when they come, and if you would like to add more, they do come as dots, so you'll cut them down to center and split them like that. But we'll talk about that bridge in a little bit. You'll also notice that the back of the triggers also have a little foam sticky as well that has a backing that will peel off, that will mount to the heads. Now mount to the rim and our bridge. Keep in mind, and I'll probably mention this a few times, when you do install these triggers, you never need to push down on the triggers themselves. You just you place them and go. The sticky is very adhesive. It sticks great. So you just set it in place and it's pretty much done. As far as the head trigger goes, when you mount your foam pad to the top, obviously you're going to give it a little push. So that'll secure it even that much more. You never ever have to push down on any of your triggers to mount them into place. Also with the kit, of course, comes two heads, top and bottom, for the acoustic to MIDI conversion. These are very quiet, very durable. They, as far as acoustics go, they are going to silence your drums. Somebody in the next room will be able to do whatever they wish, watch TV, whatever, and never know that you're actually, playing your favorite whatever. Very, very quiet, very, very acoustically pleasing, and you still can tune a little bit to the actual toms. So if you didn't want to plug in and you just wanted to practice, like a practice pad type setup, you're still going to get a small amount of acoustics, and I mean very, very small amount of acoustics to kind of just tap along with and get your chops down, all your rudiments, and things like that. Great heads, very durable, and very acoustically quiet, which is one of the things that when we're doing an acoustic to MIDI conversion, one of the priorities that we're looking at is to kind of quiet this thing down a little bit and just keep the rehearsal space or the actual venue where we're playing, just keep the volume at a decent level. Great heads. Can't say enough about the heads themselves. So that's it, product wise, and now let's install. Bridge. Alright, I want to talk about the bridge a little bit. The bridge, in our case, we had to do a little bit of fabrication, only because the drum set that we are using is an older drum set. This is a 1986 Tama Superstar. It's actually the Neil Peart signature kit, the kit that was used about the time, it was 86. So this kit's been with me for a long time. It has a lot of memories tied up in it, and one of the big reasons why I chose it. Now the hardware on this kit is a little bit thicker than what the newer hardware is as far as the screws themselves. So what we've done is we've filed this groove out. Now if you have to do the similar thing, it's very easy. You just take a small file, and I recommend laying it flat on a surface, on a table, and getting that level so you can get some pressure in there, and just file both sides, this side and this side. Try to do them equally, so this way you're not taking off more metal on one side of the bracket than the other, to accomplish what you need to do. And keep an eye, obviously you don't need to file anything more than what you need. I'm sure you don't want to file anything more than what you need to do, and of course for your durability of that piece you don't want to file anything more. So once you can fit in there and you can move that freely back and forth, you know you're done. Okay, so and in most cases you're not going to have to do that at all. These will come for your existing tom mounts or your existing lug mounts, so you're not going to have to deal with that. But if you are using an older kit, you may have to file that down just a little bit. Don't get excited, it's not a big deal. It took me 5 minutes to sand that down a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we've removed the top screw, that lug, and we're just going to set that in there real quick. And you notice that I've taken the set screws out of the bridge. That's what you're going to want to do, is you're going to want to take all those set screws out, and obviously save both top and bottom. The top is an Allen, and the bottom I'm using a socket, and I believe a 9mm socket for the bottom. Makes things really easy to get in and out, and then you have your Allen head at the top. So, but you want to take those two apart because you're going to want to apply that adhesive. Plus, you're going to want to set these without having the length of the bridge and trying to slide it back and forth, and you're definitely going to want to use the sticky. So we're going to remove this other set screw here, and I've already had these finger tight for the video here. So now put both of these sides on, just kind of set them in place. Okay, so now that they move freely, we don't have to, we can kind of move those around a little bit so we can do our measurements from that point on. What we're going to want is right at the 2-inch mark, and because I've already done the rest of the kit, I know that the bridges in their fully up position here is the 2-inch mark. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the chase a little bit and tighten that down and do one quick measurement just to make sure yes, I'm right at the 2-inch mark, which is beautiful. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm not tightening these down to their final tension yet, just enough to keep them in the place that I need them while I'm doing the rest of the process. We'll give them their final after we make sure that they're level and we get everything else on here. The next thing is the bridge. Now, if you've oiled or waxed or done any cleaning or have anything on your hands, which you probably do, whether you've done any cleaning or oiling or whatever, you probably got a little bit of something on your hands, whether that's, you know, dish soap or whatever. And you have natural oils in your skin, so you know you can probably see the fingerprints that I've gotten on the bridge. What you want to do is you want to clean the bridge or any of the surfaces that you're going to end up using the sticky on, the sticky tape. So what I'm using is an alcohol and a paper towel. And just doing a little dab. Actually, a complete wipe down, more than a little dab, but just wiping that down, getting a nice clean surface, letting that dry a little bit before I do anything with it, obviously. So while we're in that process, we can go ahead and remove the tape. Now I'm removing it by hand. You can use a razor blade to kind of pick up on that a little bit and get these off easy. Sometimes they'll be a little stubborn because that tape does have a really decent adhesive to it. So it does stick pretty good. And now it's not really thick, but it's got a good thickness to it, to where it's providing a little buffer between the two pieces of metal. So when you do install the bridge, which are dry now, when you do install the bridge, it provides a nice buffer between the two. Now you can again add another piece back here and just, you know, secure it a little bit more. I don't think we need to in this case, but again, that's completely up to you. If you'd like to put another piece back here, we get plenty of dots to do so. So I'm gonna, for purpose of the video, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in place. Now what I want to do when doing this is I want to make sure, before I stick it, I want to make sure that we're about equal, because it just makes things a little bit easier to have this space right here between these two grooves, which these are going to end up sliding into here. I like to have that space right in the middle for my piezo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on there, and then I'm going to use I have a level, just a piece of metal that I'm using from tom mount to tom mount, and just kind of taking a good look at where we sit. And you can do measurements, you can do, you know, however you're comfortable with making sure that you know, is as close to center as you can get. And the reason why I do it is because I know I'm going to put those screws back in, and I want the screws to be clear enough away from that piezo, and it's just easier to work with as far as spacing goes. So we're stuck pretty good, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my set screws again, putting them in place and just securing everything in place. That should be good. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten these down, and to spare the video, I'm gonna go ahead and just tighten them down off camera and put them back, and then we'll be ready.